With a pussy like a Lucianelle. Harry took me 20s way I'm up on the scale.
Woo! What a great time to be an NBA YouTuber. Shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder for supplying me with all this video content. Today we got some news that Chris Paul has officially been traded to the Phoenix Suns. Now throughout this entire offseason he's been linked to the Suns, he's been linked to the Knicks, to maybe the Bucks if they want to make a win now move, the 76ers, even the Lakers. But it seemed like Phoenix always had the best trade package because of the draft picks that they do have and the young talent that they had. So Phoenix is the landing spot for CP3. The actual trade was CP3 and Abdel Nader going to Phoenix for Kelly Oubre, Ricky Rubio, Ty Jerome, Jalen LeCue, and Phoenix's first round pick in 2022. On Phoenix's end, they get CP3 and Abdel Nader. I mean, Abdel Nader is cool or whatever, but I don't really know why they wanted him. I mean, he's an alright role player, but obviously this trade is not about him. Getting CP3 is a win now move. We know the Phoenix Suns had immense success in the bubble this year. They went 8-0, undefeated. It's probably the most winning success they've had in the past 5 years, that little 8-0 run in the bubble. And they got a taste of that and they want more. They want to sustain that success going into the next season. And they also have to prove to D-Book that not only can they win, but the front office is willing and able to make trades and signings and whatnot that will improve the team's chances of winning. And we know Devin Booker signed that rookie extension and hasn't really seen much winning in Phoenix. His contract's eventually going to be up and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to have to decide if he wants to return to Phoenix. Is it going to be a situation where he can win? Because he's going to be able to get money wherever he goes whenever he's an unrestricted free agent, so that's not the issue. He's going to want to look to win the later he gets into his career. Phoenix making this move proves to D-Book that they're able to make winning decisions. So when you add CP3 to your team at this stage in his career, you're obviously hoping that he can have a similar effect on your team that he had in Oklahoma City that one year. His mentorship of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was in his second year, coming off an alright rookie year on the Clippers team where he didn't really get that much playing time. But on OKC, where he was starting alongside CP3 in the backcourt, it's obvious not only did Shai improve himself, but CP3 served as a great mentor for Shai to have. And Shai has mentioned this over and over again, the impact that CP3 has had on his game. And obviously you hope that CP3 can do the same thing for this younger Phoenix team. Oklahoma City's only main young player was Shai, but Phoenix has a lot more young talent outside their main guy in D-Book. Obviously you hope that CP3 can share some nuances of the basketball game to D-Book, who's your franchise player, but you also hope that he can do the same thing towards the other young players on this team, DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson and such. And also the number 9 pick that they're going to have this year. So to get CP3, they had to give up Ricky Rubio. I mean, you're giving away Ricky Rubio and you're bringing in CP3 to do much of the same thing that Ricky Rubio does, plus a lot more. So that's not really that big of a loss. And CP3 is a better playmaker, slightly better playmaker. Rubio's literally, that's his entire game, playmaking. But CP3 is a much better shot creator, similar defender to Rubio at this stage in his career. And he's just a bit of a better leader. He's a star caliber player. Simply, he has a bit more to offer than Ricky Rubio, so I don't think Phoenix is really crying about that. They're losing Kelly Oubre, who really broke out this year. He was averaging about 17 points per game on pretty decent shooting splits. It was evident that Kelly Oubre was going to be the odd man out on this Phoenix team, given that he's slightly older than D-Book and DeAndre Ayton and the rest of this young core, and he's going to be up for an extension or just a new deal in this coming offseason, next offseason, 2021. And given that Phoenix was able to sustain their bubble success without Kelly Oubre on the roster in the bubble, and that Phoenix has a lot of players at their forward position that are younger and cheaper, because Oubre obviously is going to get a pretty long-term big contract next offseason. They have players like Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, their potential draft pick who could either be Devin Vassell, Patrick Williams. They just have a lot of younger, cheaper options at the forward position, so they're not really losing sleep over losing Kelly Oubre. And then the last piece of the trade in which Phoenix is giving away is their 2022 first round pick Obviously, Phoenix hopes that they're going to be good by that time. They hope to be in the upper echelon of the Western Conference in 2 years, so that losing that first round pick down the line isn't that big of a opportunity cost. But obviously, it's the cost of trading for an all-star. You're going to have to give up a bit more than a promising young player, a couple players in their first or second year. You're going to have to give up a draft pick. You got to give up something. And we'll talk about this pick a bit later when we talk about Oklahoma City's end of the trade, but let's kind of talk about the fit on the floor with CP3 going into Phoenix. It's great. It's really great. Like I said, CP3 does a lot of what Rubio did for Devin Booker. We all knew Devin Booker needed to play next to a point guard that could facilitate for him, make offense a bit easier, at least more easy than has been for him, or easier for him than has been throughout his first 3 or 4 years of his career. Offense came easier because he was playing with Ricky Rubio, a playmaking point guard. CP3 does what Rubio does, plus a lot more, better facilitator, extremely better shot creator, good defense, good shooting, yada yada yada. And facilitate for D-Book, let him play off ball a bit more like he was doing last year. His efficiency will continue to improve. It was already great this year. His fit with DeAndre Ayton, that pick and roll should be lethal. He'll create a lot more easy offense for him, given that CP3 is a bit more of a threat in the pick and roll because he has a much better mid-range game than Ricky Rubio. So Devin Booker and CP3 can run pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton a lot, and it will be a great source of offense for all three of them. And then the leadership. I think this year has been an important year for the NBA to reestablish the importance of culture and leadership, because we look at the Miami Heat making it to the NBA Finals off the basis of leadership and Miami Heat culture. We look at the impact of CP3's winning culture and leadership, that impact that it had on Oklahoma City and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Leadership and culture is important. You can't just throw a bunch of talented young players together and hope for the team to be successful. Leadership is still valued, and CP3 can definitely provide that for Phoenix. He's a respected voice on the floor that the young team can look up to. Now let's examine this trade on Oklahoma City's end. I think this is good value for CP3. I think this was a part of my 7 or how many ever trades for CP3 that we could expect. But this is good value for CP3. They get a young player in Kelly Oubre, who's not the youngest player in the NBA, but he's around 24 or 25, so he could definitely be a part of your rebuild going forward around Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and whatever draft picks you guys make over the next couple years. And who knows, maybe he can have a 24 or 25-year-old breakout for 20 points per game with more usage and more focus on the team. Rubio replaces CP3's playmaking. It kind of helps you stay relevant in the now, because as a lower market or a small market team that Oklahoma City is, you don't really want to bottom out as a small market team, because you want to stay competitive so that the fans keep going into the games. You don't really want to bottom out. That kind of hurts your bottom line, especially as a small market team. So Ricky Rubio helps you in that regard. And you also get young pieces in Ty Jerome, Jalen LeCue. I can't really speak to what they are on the court when they play because I haven't really seen them play. Who knows? They're still young players. Maybe there's something for you. Maybe there's some future trade assets for you going down the line. Who knows? And they also get this 2022 first round pick that I want to talk about now. This is smart from Oklahoma City, because if you think about it, CP3's production is going to tail off over the next 2 years. In 2 years time, he's going to be 36 years old. He's still going to be taking up like $45 million in salary cap because he has a player option for that last year. He's simply not going to be the same player. Who knows? Maybe he gets injured in that time. God forbid, because I like seeing CP3 on the floor. So maybe Oklahoma City is just betting on a doomsday worst case scenario where in 2 years time, maybe CP3 just really starts getting back into his injury-riddled self. He isn't the same after 2 years. Phoenix can't really increase the talent on their lineup because of how much money CP3 is making. So maybe in 2 years' time, Phoenix misses the playoffs because of all of these factors. It's a big bet, but it's one that Oklahoma City can afford to take given all of the draft picks they have in their stash over the next 5 years. So some closing thoughts on this trade. The first thing that really jumps to my mind is how good does this make Phoenix in the competitive Western Conference, because they were just outside the playoff picture in the bubble. I think they finished a half game behind Portland, so they're definitely going to be chasing that 8th seed with CP3 coming into the team this year. How likely is it that they get that 8th seed or a higher seed than the 8th seed? We have to look at the Western Conference teams that are going to drop out and return to playoff contention. The Lakers are still going to be there. The Clippers will be there. Denver, Utah, Dallas. I think those are all playoff locks for 5 teams that are playoff locks. Houston might drop out if they trade Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Oklahoma City might drop out, but Golden State's going to come back in. They're going to be a playoff lock. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that I see as playoff locks. Portland, maybe you could see them as a playoff lock, so we'll say that's 7. And then you have teams like Memphis, San Antonio if they keep DeRozan and Aldridge, New Orleans with that young core getting better, Minnesota, who knows what they do with their number 1 pick, but they'll still be a bit more competitive with Cat, D'Lo, and that number 1 pick or somebody that they trade for. They're going to be competitive for that 8th seed. Sacramento is going to be looking to bounce back. 8th seed race is going to be really competitive. The bottom half of the Western Conference is so tightly packed, it's insane. You could honestly say that every team outside of the teams locked for playoff contention, every team is competing for that 8th seed. I don't really know what team you can definitively say, oh, they're definitely not making the 8th seed. I mean, maybe you could say that about Sacramento because they've been disappointing last year. Maybe you could say that about San Antonio because they're falling out or falling off, but it's just crazy the amount of teams that are going to be competing for that 8th seed next year in the Western Conference. To grade this trade on both sides, Phoenix, I'll give them a B+. I would have preferred them to give away the 2021 first round pick instead of the 2022 pick because it's a gamble with CP3's health in that contract. But at the end of the day, they're getting CP3 and they gave up what was expected in order to get CP3. On Oklahoma City side of it, I give it a B+ or an A-, either one. We'll just say A- because I kind of finessed them on the Dennis Schroeder trade grade. But A- for them, they got a lot of value for CP3, and I think it's a very savvy move from Sam Presti to get the 2022 first round pick from Phoenix instead of the 2021 first round pick. All I can say is Suns fans should definitely rejoice. After such a long time since the Nash and Stoudemire days, playoff basketball might be back in Phoenix next year.
Be okay, man, just stay up on my way.